This is the Making Noise podcast. I think that tends to happen, you know. I mean, well, I guess it depends on if, like, with composers who are also performers. But like, you know, when your main focus is composing, you sort of drop out of playing your instrument after a while, you know.
Yeah, I always struggled with that, especially as a bassoonist, because you have the added issue of having to make your own reeds all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like working with my hands, but I never enjoyed working with them enough to fully dedicate the time to making a new reed as often as you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always sort of it took a long time to realize this, but there was a very, very palpable disconnect from what I was writing. If it was an instrument that I couldn't play, for example, like if I'm writing a piece for clarinet or if I'm writing a piece for piano, instruments that I don't really know how to play, and I'm not working super closely with the performer and I can't send them things every so often, there was a severe disconnect on what the material I was writing and what I thought I was going to hear, and then what the actual result was. And it was extraordinarily frustrating for me. But even though I didn't necessarily like writing for bassoon, I found that I never really had that problem when I was writing a bassoon piece or a saxophone piece, because that was my first instrument. And after starting the program at Pitt and increasingly getting deeper and deeper into the traditional Japanese music, partly as a means of exploring my own Japanese roots and all that, but a lot of it had to do with, I need to have my music making actually connected to an actual source of sound that I feel is tangible and immediately responding. And as I started playing more traditional Japanese music and getting more comfortable with it, I actually started experimenting more and more on the shakuhachi, getting back and getting more and more interested in improvisation, because I don't know why or how this ended up happening, but there was something about this connection with shakuhachi that allowed me to sort of start really experimenting with sounds in ways that I felt I was not able to do on bassoon. And I'm not talking about like double tonguing and flutter tonguing and multiphonics and all those things, because you can do them on both instruments. But there was something about the physicality and the way that you play shakuhachi that has gradually been unlocked, that in a way never happened with me on bassoon. I don't really know why. But there's, again, this element of like the physicality of writing at an instrument and being and like actually going through the entire arc of what you're doing. And so a lot of the past 4 years has been trying to like find a really, really consistent way of being able to produce the sound in like immediately with myself. The worst case scenario being like I have to use a MIDI keyboard or something and then sort of program it out that way. Or I'll write it on shakuhachi and then I'll switch it up to a clarinet part and I'll be like, I have the vaguest idea of what this is going to sound like, but I've realized that this sort of divide of like writing away from an instrument kind of is impossible for me these days. And it's both wonderful and frustrating, but it's definitely been a really interesting process.
Yeah, I dude, that's you're resonating. Everything you're saying resonates a lot with me. I mean, the music, I run into the same sort of situations where, you know, writing something that might have like sound-based techniques or something like that, and it's like, or even just using like a multiphonic or, you know, some sort of alternate fingering. It's like, I don't know if this is actually going to work, or how is it actually going to sound what I'm thinking, and then having that disconnect of like, I don't have anyone that I can send it to, or the person who I need to send it to like is unavailable or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But what was I going to say at the end there? What was the last couple of things you said there with the shakuhachi?
Well, there was, I think the really important part about it was unlocking the physical connection to really making sound and really just going for it. And again, I was talking to a friend of mine in New York who also is a bassoonist and plays shakuhachi, and we think there might be something to do with how it's an inherently really awkward instrument where you're sort of, your hands are like this, your shoulders are kind of in an awkward position,
Mhm.
and then you're also at the mercy of the seat strap, which is kind of a bizarre thing. And I mean, it's as well designed as it can be, but there's something really difficult to navigate for me when my body is set up in this position. And I don't quite know what it is, but there's something about being able to rest this way with the shakuhachi, and then if you're doing the traditional way of sitting where your knees are folded over each other, while it's very uncomfortable, you're also very deeply rooted into the floor, and there's something that I find really centering about playing that way.